A while ago, I was chatting to the very attractive, very charming, very talented Julia Borgio, a photographic friend of mine, and I was whining about the fact that I don't have an amazingly cool haircut or some really whippy, sharp phrase or a designer lifestyle that makes me stand out in the world of YouTuberism. In fact, I was just a grumpy old man. And Julia said, yes, indeed, you are a grumpy old man, but you are a grumpy old man with 34 years of professional international experience, more awards than you can shake a stick at, 17 fellowships, blah, 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 blah. So there is somebody out there that will benefit from your grumpy old man, tell it as it is, without any flourishes approach. So I think it's time for another coffee break ramble. Now, interestingly enough, we've just pulled back so you can see this range of flash, and the other thing I'm going to do, because it's uncomfortable, is pop the arms of my glasses back down. Now the reason I'm doing that is when we had the close-up, because I'm using this ring light that we're reviewing and testing to film this by, you could see big donut shaped highlights in my glasses and little else. But the angle of incidence always equals the angle of reflection, which simply means if I tip my glasses, the reflection will disappear or lessen. But you look stupid if you can see them on the side of your head. So we'll go back now. It's a full shot and it doesn't matter. But that is grumpy old man advice that may help somebody out there. Right, now, I've seen a load of stuff on the interweb at the moment where people are asking about, is this flash right for me? Will this flash do what I need it to do? How much power does the flash have? Can I do X, Y, or Z? And there seems to be a pigeonholing of equipment, where the truth is, I don't think there should be. Now, I'm a big fan of the Pixar Pro City equipment and Pika equipment. The Pika 200 was the first thing I got my hands on, and I have and always will describe that as the Swiss Army knife of light. It's a unit that does an awful lot of things in a single unit. I've got the round head fitted to it at the moment. It doesn't come with that as standard, but I do like the round head, so I'm going to use it on my equipment. So let me just explain what I've got here. I've got the City 100 Pro, the Pika 200 Pro, the City 300 Pro, which I think is my favourite light, say that all the time, the City 400 Pro and the City 600 Pro. And there is a 1200 Pro, which is a battery packed unit. So it's a head that you plug in to a battery pack. These are actually what we describe in the old world of photography as monoblocks. In other words, the power unit and the light and everything it needs to function is all in one single unit. You don't need anything else. Now, back in the bad old days when we referred to them as monoblocks, they generally plugged into the wall. The wonderful thing about all of these is they are battery powered in one way or another. Now, for me, this is a revolution because it means that there are no leads for me to trip over with, and believe me, I can trip over a lead better than anybody else in the world. And that was before losing a leg, to be honest. So what we've got here is 100 watt seconds, 200 watt seconds, 300 watt, 400, 600 watt. Amazing how the name reflects that, isn't it? Now, the actual flash functionality, the way that you can change channels, the way that it'll do high-speed sync, the way that it works with TTL, all of those units do exactly the same thing as one another. You can all fire them all as a manual unit, so you turn the power up and down. You can go into TTL and allow the TTL functionality to work. You can use them stroboscopically. They have modelling light built in. Some of them down at this end are more rudimentary than as you go up in size and power. And as from a functionality point of view, they all do the same thing. Now, it's probably fair that I remove the Pika 200 from the range, although I'm not sure why I'm doing that, other than the fact that you can change its head and it's got a bit more functionality in the Swiss Army knife way, in the fact that I can take that round head off and I can put a standard Fresnel on, or I can take that off and put a burr bulb in, which is a really cool light source actually. So I'm just taking that to the side because these are directly comparable. They're all City Pros 1, 3, 4 and 600. So there's a difference in the power that they produce, and hopefully we can put to bed now this whole story of what's the right flash if I'm a wedding photographer in New York, or what's the right flash if I'm a fashion photographer in Outer Mongolia, or what do I take if I want to go and shoot portrait pictures in a French chateau. Because when you see them side by side, it's simple to understand that it's a balance of size to power. It really is that simple. All of these units work in the same way. They have the same functionality. The only real tangible difference is that's 100 watt seconds and that's 600 watt seconds. So it's the choice of how much light do you need and how much weight do you want to carry. Now even that 600 watt unit isn't massive, but we are all lazy these days, and if we can get away with carrying that, I'd rather carry that than that. So it comes down to the fact of how much light do you need for the photograph that you're going to take. Now I know lots of people ask the question of, I want to beat the sun and turn the sky a deep inky blue. Well, even that's a bit of a sliding scale question, because the 600 watt unit will and won't do it. The 100 watt unit will or won't do it, because that's all dependent on where you're taking that outside picture. You know, if I'm in the middle of the Mojave Desert, I need a fair few of these to do the job. If I'm in rainy old Widnes, then which is a small industrial town in the northwest of England for our international viewers, where, you know, there's chimney smoke blocking the sun out 90% of the time. Actually, that's a lie. It was when I was a kid, it's not now. But you get the idea, dark satanic northern mills, blah, 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 blah. If there's less ambient light to kill, then you need less flash power. But that's not a definitive, I need X watt seconds to beat the sun, because it depends on location, time of year, and exactly where in that location you are. Because you'll need a lot less power if you stood under the shade of an awning of a building, or under treetop, if you've got trees sort of blocking out top light. The point is, it's all relative. It's relative to time, place, light level. So if you're buying flash, now you can obviously see here, and I bought these, we buy a range of power. Now the truth is, I'm trying to think over the last 3 years since I swapped from Elinchrom to the Pika units, probably less than half a dozen times have I run any unit at full power. But again, bizarrely, I've run all of the units at full power one time or another. And that's not just as a necessity to get output power. It's as sometimes a necessity to get usable power. So whereas this 100 watt unit may struggle to fill my 5'10" largest softbox with light and give me usable depth of field at the other end, then, you know, these guys have done it easily and with aplomb. So again, it's not just a matter of how many watt seconds. You've got to ask yourself, well, what modifiers am I going to use? How am I going to use these things? So if your desire is to use a silver beauty dish 90% of the time, you can have less power than if you're using a 6-foot indirect softbox. It's like everything. You pays your money and you takes your choice. How much do you want to carry compared to how much power do you need? Now, when I first got into the system, I thought the 400 was the perfect unit. 400 watt seconds, not too heavy, happy to stick a couple of them in a bag and cart them round. And then the 300 came out. And for the difference in power, 100 watt seconds isn't a huge amount, but the difference in size and the difference in weight, that's why I have 9 of these between myself and my wife, because for us, this is the best bang for the buck. So the correlation of power given compared to size and weight is the sweet spot for us. Now we shoot everything, virtually every genre of photography you can think about, we shoot. Now sometimes that bad boy will be down on 125th of its output power, or it'll be working at half power. Very rarely do I work a flash at full power, 1-to-1 power, because if I'm getting to that point, then I need to move up to another power level, because I don't want to overexert my tools. That's just the way I think. I could be totally wrong, and there could be super techno people out there that tell me running it at full power forever and a day is the right thing to do. But you know what? I'd rather have a big engined car with a V6 or a V8 instead of a 1.4 litre 4-cylinder engine, because I know that there's a lot less strain on the bigger engine, a lot more potential and a lot more capability. But would I want to carry 600s around with me all day, every day? No, because I'm lazy. I'd get an assistant to do it. But ultimately, my assistants are getting old and I don't want them to do it either. So it's choice. And the choice isn't dependent on what you're doing with it. So this isn't a location, this isn't a studio light, and this isn't a location fashion light, and this isn't the light you buy for doing weddings, and this isn't the light you buy for taking portraits of religious people in dark, gloomy cathedrals. Light doesn't work like that. Light works on the fact that it's 100 watts, 300 watts, 400 watts, 600 watts. And I intend to marry them with X modifiers 90% of the time, which means I need that power, or that power, or that power, or that power. So ultimately, the argument of what is the best light for a roving fashion photographer depends on answering the questions of: where in the world are you shooting? What time of day are you shooting? How bright is the ambient light that you need to beat if you're trying to beat ambient light? And how much weight do you want to carry? So in other words, how much is too much? You know, people have often said to me, why do you like 4.2 litre V8 supercharged engines when in the country I live in, the maximum speed limit is 70 miles an hour? Well, do you know what? I just like them. And I like having the extra power underfoot for overtaking. And light is very similar. You're never going to, or you shouldn't be running it at its full power all the time. So you have to ask yourself, what is it I'm going to do with it most of the time? How do I want it to work? And then you choose accordingly. Now, the truth of the matter is, most of us end up buying too much power. That's something I've seen a lot. And as somebody that's mentored hundreds and hundreds of photographers, one of the biggest problems that I'm often asked is, how do I turn the power down on my flash? Because I can't get the output low enough. Well, the answer to that is simple. It's using gels to kill the power of the light. But what that tells me is it tells me that you've bought too much power, because that's what the salesman said you needed, for the size of the studio you're shooting in. So it's genuinely all to do with what you intend to be doing with the unit most of its working life. And as I've said, where in the world, how bright, time of day, these are all factors that have to be taken into consideration. And once you think about them, you realise there's no such thing as the perfect light that does everything that you want it to do. Because it always will come down to physical size versus output power. So if 100 watt seconds is enough for what you need, that's perfect, because it's light and it's small and it's easy to carry around. If I need 600 watt seconds, then do you know what? I'm just going to have to suck it up, buttercup, and carry the damn thing. But there will be something that you find with experience, and hopefully the experience of people like me asking you to look at these things in a sensible way, that you'll find your sweet spot. And once you find your sweet spot, you're good to go. So we use all of these regularly. Actually, that's a lie. I use all of these regularly. This occasionally in my studio and out on location. Now, the reason I only have one of these, and I have 3 or 4 of these and 9 of these, is the fact that it's rare that I need this much oomph. My studio, or my camera room, is, the scoop is 24 foot across, and you can get back about 60 feet if you need to, and the 400 is hardly taxed enough in that space, and the 300 copes very well. Also remember, it depends on the job the light's doing. So you may only need one more powerful light for your key light, and your fill lights, accent lights, background lights, hair lights and spots, your effects lights, will generally be put at less power than the key light. So you don't necessarily need to buy 6 of one power output. You can buy 1 at the maximum power and then the others slightly less. Or you can have sat in the shelf something with real oomph for the rare occasions that I need to put that power out. It has been my experience over the last 34 years that as photographers, most of us end up purchasing too much power. Now, the truth is, these things turn down to whispers, you know, 125th or a 256th of its total output power. Whereas my first studio strobe, which was made by a company called Courtney, which I don't think exists anymore, was either full power, half power or off. So we're actually spoilt with what we've got today and the choices of what we've got. So don't think, please, that I'm being flippant or trite. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is say to you there is no such thing as the perfect light for a specific job. You have to balance your needs. And this is part of what being a professional photographer is about. It's about knowing how much power you will need for the modifier you're going to use in the lighting situation and location you're going into. And therefore you only pack what you need to do that specific shoot, to get that job done. Now, if you can get away with carrying that around rather than either of those two around, then your back, your legs and your arms are going to thank you. If you find that you're not using this anywhere near full power, then maybe the next size down is the thing that you can use. But what I wanted to say in this grumpy old man coffee break ramble is stop thinking that there are specific lights for specific jobs. I.e., in other words, I'm shooting a bride and groom at the front door of a cathedral, therefore I need X light. There are specific powers of light for specific jobs that you, as the pro, need to work out what it is that you need to do. And as a good lazy pro, I'll choose the light that gives me the most versatility in the simplest package to carry. Sometimes I need a lot of these. Sometimes I can get away with one of those. Most of the time I have something that will do what I need and give me a cushion in case I'm doing something that is out of the normal wheelhouse of what I do. So don't think in don't think in specifics of job. Think in power balanced against size to carry. How much do I need? How much do I want to carry? It really is that simple. Now that was obviously something close to my heart, because that coffee break ramble has enabled me to let my coffee go cold. Until next time.